So I just got back from Paris and I need to tell you about this thing that I'm obsessed with. So out of everything that you could eat in the city of Paris, of course, you know, I come back home with an extreme love for a sandwich. It's not steak frites, it's not escargot, it's a sandwich. I know, very American. The sandwich is very unique and it's very French though. It's 2 ingredients. The sandwich is called the Jambon Buerre, or ham and butter. It might sound weird to the American palate, but the beauty is in the simplicity. I literally had the sandwich every single day that I was in Paris, and it all kind of culminated to this last day, right? I had like 4 hours before my flight, and my French friend told me all about this spot that's supposed to be the best Jambon Beurre in the city. So I borrowed an umbrella from the front desk and sort of braved through the rain for about 2 miles just to get to this spot. The spot was sort of lit up all beautifully in yellow, gleaming through this like cloudy day. I walk inside, there's these displays of ham of all different kinds, you know, charcuterie and just beautiful like cured meats hanging from the ceiling. Literally a massive jar of cornichons like displayed next to a bunch of French mustard, which is the most like snapshot French thing you can ever see in your life. And even though I literally practiced ordering a sandwich in French for like the 20 minutes that it took to walk over to this spot, I still managed to screw it up. Oh, bonjour. Thank you. But the guy was super nice about it, you know, started speaking to me in English, which was great for me because I can't read good in English or in French, especially in French. All right, let's get into it, starting with le baguette. The baguette is actually very important in French culture. It's something that's eaten almost every day by most of the country. I wanted to make the baguette recipe as easy and approachable as possible for you guys without compromising flavor and texture and all that good stuff. What I ended up with after multiple tests was this. We just have a little bit of agua here. I'm gonna pop that in the bowl of my stand mixer. It's always easier to mix dough when you put the liquid in first and the dry on top of the liquid, so that's what we're doing. This is sourdough starter. It's completely optional, kind of goes against everything I just said about this being a simple recipe. If you leave it out, the recipe is still gonna work just fine. It's gonna taste really nice and you're gonna be happy. But if you do have some sourdough starter, it is going to add a level of complexity because remember, at the end of the day, we're talking, you know, we're calling it a 2 ingredient sandwich. Really, it's 3 with the bread. So we want the bread to be nice, we want the butter to be nice, and of course the ham to be nice. So start with nice bread. This is about 25 grams sourdough starter. It doesn't need to be like active or anything. Being super precise here with my measuring. Sourdough starter, our liquid, I'm gonna add in our instant yeast. And on top of all that, we just have some strong bread flour. One type of flour, bread flour, high protein. Schwing. Classic, classic. We're just gonna vroom that right in there. Beautiful. Onto the schmixie. Dough hook on. We're gonna mix this on low for about 30 seconds just until it comes together. And right about there, we're gonna cut it and let it rest for 15 minutes. This step is called the auto lease. It's going to help jumpstart gluten development so that we don't have to mix it as long and as hard. It's been 15 minutes, dough is auto leased, time to schmixie. We're gonna go on like medium, high speed. I have not added the salt yet. We're gonna wait until the dough develops a little more to add the salt to kind of lock those gluten strands in place. If you add the salt too early, it's gonna be really hard to develop gluten in your dough. All right, we're gonna speed things up a little bit. This is literally a metaphor for my life. A dough ball teetering on the edge. Okay. So once the dough kind of comes off the sides of the bowl and it looks a little something like this, a little stretchy, you know, like that, gluten starting to form, we can add our salt. Just regular old kosher salt. We're gonna mix that on low till all the salt is worked in, and then we'll bump up the speed. All right, beautiful. With sticky dough, kind of helps to have wet hands, so wet your hands a little bit if you need to. It's gonna take that dough off the hook, and this is our end result. Very wet, a little sticky, not the easiest dough to work with. Now, I'm not worried about this being super developed because what we're gonna do here, but it does pass the window test, you can see that, without tearing. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take this, you know, you can give it a little bit of a shape, it doesn't really matter. Get it nice and sort of circular. Definitely anchor your cutting board down. I didn't do that. And we're just gonna plop that in a bowl. And we're gonna allow that, hold on. We're gonna allow that to sit covered in the fridge overnight. When it comes to bread, time is your friend, right? It's gonna be what helps develop that flavor of the bread. So a long, cold bulk fermentation in the fridge is going to take an otherwise very simple dough and add complexity to it. Remember I said this wasn't a complicated recipe, it's really not. This is sort of the most, I don't know what to call it, like annoying thing about this bread recipe, but trust me, leave this overnight in the fridge and it's going to be perfect the next day. It's going to be wonderfully fermented and it's going to turn your bread from this base level of, average bread to a really nice, fun, funky, good bread. So in the fridge. Lucky for us, I have some already pre-made a la Martha Stewart or the Food Network or something. Look at that. It even smells nice and ripe. It looks kind of like pizza dough. It's kind of got that slick shine to it. And gluten has continued to develop in this dough just with time. Like I said, time is one of bread's best friends. So I mean, just look how beautifully smooth that is. And I didn't need it any longer than I just needed it on camera with you guys. Boom. Reduce, reuse, recycle on the saran wrap. Now we want to portion our dough out. I've found in my testing that I like around 280 gram dough balls, and that's going to give us what's called a demi-baguette, right? Which is just a shorter baguette, and in my opinion, it's perfect for sandwiches. You could also make these bigger, but we're going demi today. And like I said, bread making at home could be as easy or as complicated as you want. Could I eyeball this and try to make 5 uniform pieces? Absolutely. This is kind of one of those things that I don't like to eyeball because I really like my bread being very similar in size and shape. So we're scaling today. All right, we're calling that 280. Wonder how many I can get out of this. 279, so close. All right, so we got 4 baguettes out of this and some extra dough here, 4 demi-baguettes and 1 micro baguette. Now, basically, we're just gonna shape these up, kind of just like you might roll out pizza dough balls, right? Like how we've done in the past. I'm just gonna scrunch the bottom, shape them up, add some surface tension to this, and boom, that's a dough ball. And just rinse and repeat with the remaining doughs. All right, that pre-shape. All right, so we're all measured out. We got our dough balls portioned and pre-shaped. We're gonna let these sit at room temperature because remember, they just came out of the fridge. We're gonna let them sit at room temperature for 1 hour to warm up. They're going to expand a bit, and then from there, we can shape them and bake our baguettes. So put this aside for now, and we're gonna work on the other component of the sandwich that is very important, le beurre, the butter. Let's talk butter. But not just any butter. We're gonna make a cultured butter. What does that mean? Well, it's slightly fermented, it's tangier, it's a little more interesting, and it's brighter and more acidic than regular butter. How do you make cultured butter? Well, it starts with cultured cream. Here we have some heavy cream and some buttermilk, right? Cultured buttermilk. This is what's going to inoculate the cream to make creme fraiche, which we are then going to whip into our cultured butter. So if you're playing along at home, whipped up creme fraiche equals cultured butter. So creme fraiche does take a couple of days to make. It's 2 ingredients, right? Heavy cream and buttermilk. Kind of important to, get a nice high quality cream. Some good dairy. When you're using dairy, you want good dairy. I'm just gonna use the whole thing. So I don't know, what is that? About 2 cups of cream, some high quality, nice cultured buttermilk. I'm gonna pop, I don't know, a couple tablespoons of that into our cream. That's mixed up. We're just gonna give that a little stir, make sure that buttermilk is nice and worked into the cream. Then you're gonna have to go against all of your instincts because what we're gonna do now, pop our lid on. You can keep it a little cracked if you want. Now we're gonna let this sit on the counter at room temperature for 24 hours. After 24 hours, give it a stir and put it in your fridge. Let it sit for another 24 hours. So that's 1 day at room temperature, 1 day chilling in the fridge. On day 3, you're gonna be left with something like this. Look how beautifully luscious and thick that is. You could think of this as sour cream's cooler older brother, right? It's a little thinner, obviously, but it's tangier, it's definitely more rich, and in my opinion, a lot more interesting than traditional sour cream. Different, but more interesting. So what do we do now? We make butter. We're gonna take all this and just plop it in here. Whoa. Yeah, making butter is hilariously simple. So if we were just gonna make regular butter, all we would do is put our heavy cream into this food processor and do the exact same thing, but because we're making cultured butter, we turn that cream into creme fraiche, and here we are. So we're gonna plop that on. Okay, so at this stage, it's essentially whipped cream, right? It's like cultured whipped cream. It's actually really, really nice on like a strudel or like a pie or something. We're gonna keep going and you'll see it's gonna turn into butter. All right, look at that. That is what we're looking for, baby. Just got ourselves some cheesecloth here. Gonna pop that over our strainer. We got bowl, strainer, cheesecloth, cool. Remove this and strain off our whey. Cool. This is why we use the cheesecloth here. So check this out. So all this yellow stuff here, that's our butter, right? And we want to remove most of the whey from it because if we don't, the butter can go rancid a lot faster. So I'm just gonna squeeze out as much whey as possible. Don't waste this buttermilk. What can you do with it? My favorite thing to do with it is brine a chicken, but that's another video. So we're gonna put that aside, and we are going to take a nice bowl of cold water and continue to what's called wash our butter, right? Removing most of that whey, which I can actually get rid of this cheesecloth here. Look at how beautiful that is though. Come on. And I'm gonna kind of just squeeze the butter into this cold water. And the reason the water is cold is so that the butter doesn't melt out into the liquid and it stays in one solid piece. Don't skip this step. You know, you're going through the process of making homemade butter and you don't want it to go rancid. So make sure to wash it. All right, so from here you can shape it however you want. In France, they do a lot of really cool things with the shape of the butter, but for our purposes, we're just going to leave it kind of in block form like this and let it come to room temperature because all we're doing is spreading it on our sandwiches. You absolutely can salt your butter if you want. We're not going to. I like to be able to control my seasoning, so I like unsalted butter. Plop that in a bowl. We're gonna leave this at room temperature so we can spread it easier later on. Let's go check on our baguettes. All right, we gotta talk about the setup of the oven when cooking baguettes. We're gonna need a super ripping hot oven. So we're gonna set this to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. It's important that you allow the oven to preheat up. It's important to let the oven to preheat and charge with heat. Couple of special tools we're gonna be using today. First, we just got a regular trusty old cast iron, right? This thing has seen better days because I've been using it to bake a lot. But we're gonna let that sit on the floor of the oven because we're gonna eventually dump water on it, which is gonna create steam. We'll talk about that later. Then, we just have a baking stone here. Baking steel works as well. If you don't have one of these, first off, if you bake bread, you make pizza or whatever, pick one of these up. It's totally worth it. It's very inexpensive. But I do understand watching a recipe video and being annoyed when there's all this special gear needed. So you don't really need any special gear, truthfully. You can use a steel baking sheet like this. This is a small one. I'm talking a bit of a bigger one here to pop in your oven and use as a stone. Just stay away from aluminum like this. It doesn't charge with heat enough as good as these steel ones do. So just make sure you're using a steel pan if you're gonna go down that road. But I recommend either a baking stone or a baking steel. Okay, this is called a couche. C-O-U-C-H-E, I believe. This is basically what French bakers use to proof their bread in. What is this, linen, I believe? It's a little airy, so it kind of allows the bread to be covered, but when it's resting and proofing, it allows the baguettes to keep their straight shape. And they kind of develop a little bit of a skin because it's not completely sealed like it would be with plastic wrap. So totally optional. I understand, again, I'm trying to stay away from annoying pieces of gear that you don't need. If you plan on baking a lot of bread in your day, pick one of these up again. Very affordable. I'll have links for this stuff on my website. But you can also totally use parchment paper. Just take out a nice big strip of it, crinkle it up, and use it the same way that I'm about to show you here. But since I have one of these, just laying it on a sheet tray so I can move these baguettes around later. I'm just going to dust this with a little bit of rice flour because it's less sticky than all-purpose, right? A little bit of rice flour all around just to make sure that our baguettes don't actually do too much sticking. And that is our couche. That's gonna be nice and set up for when we need it. So we'll put this aside and we'll get to shaping. Here are our little dough balls. Look at that. Beautiful, they're puffed up a little bit. They are room temperature-ish. So, shaping bread, just like baking bread in general, can be as complicated as you make it. After testing this recipe a bunch of times, I found a very, very simple way to shape these baguettes. Couldn't be any easier and yields a pretty good end result. So that's what we're gonna do today. It's got some all-purpose flour here, nice clean work surface. Just gonna dust that up a little bit not too much flour, just enough. We're gonna take one of our dough balls here, and we're gonna flip that and invert it into the flour as to coat a single side, leaving one floured and dusted and non-stick, the other still quite sticky. We're gonna put that down, push the air out of it, and then we're just gonna smack it on the bench, push it out, make yourself this nice, cute little oval situation. Remember, flour, sticky. From here, you're just simply going to take the lip, push it out, then you're gonna take it again, push it together, and then here, you can take your palm and just seal her up. Fold that over, and you have yourself a beautiful little football baguette shape. From here, work it in the middle, and come out to make a nice, I really like a nice tapered edge on my baguette here. I think when they look kind of like, I don't know, it reminds me of like a Tim Burton character. Like this could be like the boogeyman from like the what's that movie called? Christmas Carol? No. Jack the Skeleton. Skeleton Jack. Jack Skeleton. He's got a LinkedIn? All right, anyways, yeah, I like these little tapered edges here. So what we're gonna do here, notice we have our seal. Just go ahead and pinch that up. And while these proof, I'm going to transfer this over to the couche. So this is our shaved baguette here. I'm gonna take this little guy here, move it to our couche, and create a little slot for it. And this is what I mean by crinkling up that parchment if that's what you're using here. This is why couches are cool, because you can kind of fold it as you need to and create these little cubbies for your finished baguettes. Now, from here, we're just gonna cover up our couche. All right, so now we're just gonna let these proof for about 45 minutes at room temperature. That's pretty much all they need. Let's unsheath our little beauties and see where we're at here. It's been about 35 minutes. Oh yeah, so they're not quite doubled in size as you can see, but definitely noticeably puffier. In France, they have these like wooden boards to kind of like move the baguettes as to not sort of disrupt their perfect shaping after they've been sitting in the couche. I'm just gonna use a cutting board. I'm just gonna go ahead and pop our things on a board. Oh, almost forgot. So, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. So basically, we have this little setup here. This is how we're gonna transfer our baguettes into the oven. I got a sheet tray, some parchment paper. I'm gonna take a little bit of semolina flour, just to help them not stick, because parchment paper can still be a little sticky sometimes. It's just an insurance policy. We are going to take our wonderfully undisturbed baguette, cool, and pop that right on there. Perfect. We're gonna go seam side up. Wonder if I can get all four on here. 1, 2. Yeah, we'll get all four on there. Again, I'm just gonna gently handle them to make sure that their seam side is up so we can control where they open up. Fantastic. All right, next up, we're gonna score these things, and that's just to control where the gas releases, right? If we didn't score the bread, the gas could pop out of any sides of the bread, therefore kind of ruining its appearance. You know, it serves a purpose and it looks nice. So I'm just gonna take my lame and I'm gonna do, I don't know, maybe like 4 little slices down the baguette. And you can kind of do this however you want. I like these little overlapping things here, but you can also do that. Cool. Now this is kind of like a fun little trick to make the bread look a little more rustic. I'm just gonna take some all-purpose flour and sprinkle that over the top there. It's gonna give a nice little dusty appearance to our baguettes. Okay, the launch. All right, this is the moment of truth. The oven is hot as hell. It's at 500 degrees. We're gonna open this up. I'm gonna get these onto the baking stone, and then in that ripping hot cast iron that we talked about earlier, we're gonna pour some water to create steam, which is going to help our baguettes kind of like form a bit of a skin and really help them get a nice rise off the jump. So I'll show you what that looks like now. In we go. Pray for me. So, as you can see, I'm just gonna aim for the back. Nice. I learned that if you really wanna get the benefits of the steam, you gotta act fast. So let's do this. All right, let's set a timer. We're gonna do 10 minutes at 500. Then we're gonna lower the oven, cook for another 15 minutes. All right, 10 minutes have surpassed. We're gonna cut it and we're gonna lower the heat to 450. Okay, cool. And then we're gonna set that timer for 15 minutes.
Surpassed.
All right, 15 minutes have elapsed. Oh man, oh yeah, those are looking nice. Hot, ow. That looks fantastic. This is a little blonde. That could probably use a little more time too. These two look good to me. Those will probably put in for an extra 2-3 minutes and check on them in a second. All right, all of our components are ready to go. We got our wonderful homemade cultured butter, our homemade baguettes, nice and dusty with that score job that we did earlier. And this is an important thing that we must talk about, the ham itself, right? This is the ham that we're talking about here. It comes in this sort of like log type vibe. This is the skin, the fatty skin that is kind of on the top resting. So it kind of does look like literally like it's a piece of ham, which is nice. Like you can kind of actually see that it is in fact ham, not some sort of mystery meat. I think this like kind of gelatinous collagen-y piece is really nice. And when it's sliced thin on the sandwich, it adds really good flavor and texture to the sandwich as well. Jambon de Paris. Jambon de Paris. Check this out. That is the sound of a wonderful baguette. Dusty and crusty, as we say. Look at that. Come on. That is what we're going for. That crumb with those different oddly shaped holes. That's a wonderful crumb if you ask me. You can see in there it's a little glossy from the fermentation. If you flip it over, you can see tiny little air bubbles in the side, which is another great sign of fermentation. And come on, was that difficult? Not really. Just took a little bit of time, but it was quite simple if you ask me. All right, what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna hit it with some of this tempered cultured butter. It's very important that you let your butter sit at room temperature so you can spread it easily, because spreading cold butter is not a vibe. Oh yeah. In France, they do not hesitate to use butter. So we're gonna go both sides. And if you recall, we did not add salt to this butter. And that is okay, because right now is our chance to add some seasoning. I have some French sea salt here. I've actually had this for a little while, but we're gonna use it today. Just gonna lay some of that over the top here. That's actually gonna add like a nice like crunch element, which is gonna be pretty tasty, I'm sure. Okay, we got the bread, we got the beurre. Time for the jambon. I'm just gonna stack the ham on. Not too high, they don't tend to load their sandwiches too fat, but after all, we are in America and we do that, so cool. And there she blows, the Jambon Buerre. Classic. Ham and butter, that's it. As I've said ad nauseum, there's more than one way to make this sandwich. Now, classically, it's ham and butter, right? Jambon Buerre. But today, we are going to make it kind of the way I like to eat it. When I was in Paris, the guy told me a couple things. He asked me a couple questions I thought were interesting. One, he asked if I want cheese, which would technically make it a jambon fromage, I believe. I'm not 100%. That was cool though, because cheese and ham sandwich, I mean, that's good stuff. Second question was he asked what type of ham I wanted. Do I want cured ham or fresh ham? There were two fridges, right? One side had a bunch of fresh ham that was not cured, or if it was cured, it was very lightly cured and not aged. The other fridge was kind of more your prosciutto vibe, right? Heavily cured and definitely aged, sliced thin. So it was interesting because you can have your ham in different ways. You can add a variety of different cheeses they had, and you can even add a little bit of mustard and pickles, which I love, so we're going to do. So I'll stop talking. This is how I do it. You can call this the Jambon Beurre Deluxe, or if you will. Very nice, very nice. This version still starts with a liberal spreading of beurre on both sides. A little bit of Dijon, both sides. Tiny bit of mustard. Our ham. That looks good to me. Comté cheese. This is just a French cheese. It kind of is like a Gruyere vibe. They had these like assortments of cheese there, anywhere from like Emmental to like this Comté to a couple other things too, but their Comté was like 2 years aged, so it was very sharp and very good. This is a younger Comté, but it will still be tasty. I think it's aged for like 120 days or something. Cool. And last but not least, some pickles. Little baby gherkins or cornichon. And that's it. Schwing. I don't know what you call this, Jambon Buerre Royale. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Whoops.
Salt.
Salt, very important. Look, all of our pickles stuck to the top. We're just gonna put some salt on this side here, enough to compensate for both sides of the sandwich. Swing. All right, we got our sandies side by side. Look how cute they are, little tandem Jambon Beurres. Now, in Paris, you would straight up eat them like this, like single go, take a nice go at it, but I wanna see some cross section, so. There you go. Kinda no frills, extremely simple, almost like monochromatic in color. Crusty baguette. Let's check this one out. Oh yeah, that is a thing of beauty. Like I said, the beauty is in the simplicity, you know? We got our deluxe royale, whatever you want to call it, and our classic. These are so, look at them, they look like little like puppies. They have like tails. I feel like I'm looking at like some babies. All right, let's see how this holds up to the ones I had in Paris. It does. You can say that confidently. Ooh, that salt on there, that crunch appeal to it, that's cool. But if I was gonna order it, and also if I'm just making it at home and we're not gonna do the classic one, I want the mustard, I want the cornichon, I want the cheese, I want the flop. Look at that, that's proper floppage.
Nope.
The Dijon with all these other ingredients, like you need it, but ain't nothing wrong with the classic version too. After all, that is how I ended up falling in love with the sando. Yeah, that's it, baby. Jambon Beurre, pretty much from scratch. Really not that hard to do, just a bit of a time commitment, but it is fun. Butter and ham, very good combo. Guys, I can't stress it enough. If you've never tried this sandwich, you gotta try it at home. I could see this being in every American household from here for the rest of time. And if you do make it, be sure to snap a pic and put it in the Discord or tag me in it or something, because I love seeing your creations. Best way to support us is over on the Patreon. It is literally like, $5 a month for all this extra bonus stuff. It's a good fun time. Like the video if you dug the video. It's a very easy way to support the channel as well. And subscribe if you are new here. And if you are not new here, what up, dude? It's pretty much all I got for you this time. So until we meet next, au revoir.